What's going on, man? It's your boy, Coach Jack. Welcome back for another edition of the RE.U.P Podcast, where we talk about the past, things that are happening in the present, and things that can and may happen in the future in this thing we call life in football. So today's episode is going to focus on something that's very important for us as athletes and coaches, and that's the word ability. Now, when most people hear the word ability, they think of talent. They think of things that you put on display, for production. Well, that is a part of ability. But I want to focus more so on the other parts of ability as well. The availability, the coachability, responsibility, and accountability, right? All the things that really matter when it comes down to the nitty gritty, when it comes down to the, the little nuances that make teams win, the things that make, players and, coaches bond and, have those everlasting memories for the next 10, 15, 20 years, whatever the case may be, right? So, first things first, yes, you need talent to win, right? Nobody's disputing that. Nobody's saying that you don't need talent because obviously you have to have some type of ability, right? You have to have some type of talent in order to be successful with whatever you're trying to do, especially in athletics. Um, but the ability to be coachable. Are you able to, right? When we start talking about ability, is really, are you able to? That's what it is. Are you able to be coachable, right? So, and a lot of the times, we see a lot of young athletes who, you know, are relying on their athleticism. They're relying on their natural God given talent that, sometimes when you have such God given talent, you have such, ability to go forth and do the things that you want to do. Sometimes you don't really necessarily rely too much on the coaching that goes into it, right? And it's a sad part of it because when when you have, a coach who is there for you, when you have a coach who is pouring their everything and pouring their knowledge and, their level of maturity and from their own game and trying to pour it into you, it can develop you that much more, right? When you start talking about, are you listening, right? Or are you just talking to talk? Are you listening to what's being told to you? Are you listening to what, the direction and the format of everything that you want to accomplish? That coach is there. He's there. He's probably been there. He's probably done that. And even if he hasn't been there or done that, there are things that they have knowledge of that you can take. You can take and you can utilize and you can be the person or the athlete that you want to be. It's just, are you willing to sit down and shut up? Are you willing to sit down and shut up? Are you willing to sit down and listen? Are you willing to be coachable? Are you willing to take coaching so that you can be everything that you want to be? Right. And so I just want to really, 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 I mean, obviously I'm a coach, right? Obviously I'm a coach. I'm a guy who, I played since I was 6 years old, right? I jumped right into coaching as soon as I got done. Playing. I'm so enthralled into, you know, players being coachable because I know what it can bring. I know what it did for my game when I was younger. I see what I've been able to bring to my players, uh, just and developing and cultivating and nurturing their own natural talent. So I'm able to, you know, just get the most out of my players, right? And in turn, their buy-in to what I'm teaching them and their ability to be coachable is going to bring forth productivity because that's what it's about, when it comes to being on the field, right? You have to be productive. You have to have a level of productivity in order to sustain success, right? So, along with being coachable, it comes this, a level of accountability, right? How accountable are you? Are you accountable to the level that people can really depend on you, right? When people depend on you, it literally it creates a level of a standard of maturity within the entire team, right? You have to be able to, you know, dive into the necessary accountability structure. What does that mean? That means that not only are you holding yourself accountable, but you're going to hold your teammates accountable as well, right? But before you hold your teammates accountable, you have to check yourself. You have to make sure you're at every class. You have to make sure you're at every meeting. You have to make sure you're on time for it. You have to be accountable to the things that you're planning on holding other people accountable to. Because otherwise, it makes zero sense for you to even open your mouth about being accountable for anything, right? So you talk about being coachable, you talk about being accountable, both of those abilities lead into being responsible, right? So you have a responsibility to yourself, to the team, to your family, to the people who've poured into you. You have a responsibility to make sure that you are your best self. If you cannot make sure that you are your best self, you better be pushing really close to it, right? And I say you have that responsibility because nobody's a waste of time, right? Everybody has something that they have to give or that they can give to life, right? And people pour into you. And when people pour into you, you have to take that, don't take it for granted, but you have to take that and you have to run with it. Because not everybody has people that are on their side that you know, they have that structure around them to be able to push forward and be the person that they want to be, right? So you have to make sure that you are responsible to carry on whatever somebody has put into you, right? And so you talk about, like I said, coachability, accountability, responsibility, and probably the biggest one out there is availability. Well, here's the thing about availability. Injuries happen. Injuries happen. That is a given in athletics. Everybody's had some nagging injuries or injuries that they can't come back from or are out months, years, whatever the case may be. Um, you can't do anything about that. But on the flip side of it, you heard the saying, are you hurt or are you injured? Are you hurt or are you injured? Are your feelings hurt or can you just not go because you're incapable of going, right? Um and the sad, not sad, but the thing that sucks about availability is if you are not there, the next person has to step up. If you're not there, the next person has to step up and the show's got to keep going, right? The show's not just going to stop just because you're not there to take your reps or you're not there to play in a game or you're not there. The show has to go on. So you have to make sure that you are putting yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit, everything. You have to make sure you're putting yourself in a position that you are available and that nobody can come and disrupt the manner in which you're being productive within the game or practice, whatever the case may be. You have to be available so that you can do what you're supposed to do in order to be successful and go beyond everything that you want. So just want to talk a little bit about ability, right? Are you able to? Are you able to go out there and be productive in all levels, right? And here's the thing too, and we're not just talking about on the field stuff or on the court stuff, or like obviously in my case of football, we're not just talking about on the field. We're talking about off the field too, right? Are you able to be dependent on to go to class? Are you able to be dependent on to manage your finances? Right? We're in college right now, and the world of NIL and all that stuff like that. A lot of student athletes. You, you got to start worried about this thing called debt. You got to start worried about this thing called taxes. You got to start worried about things that you probably didn't even think you were going to have to worry about between 18 to 22 years old, right? And quite frankly, you're going to be responsible for a lot of that stuff. So it's a matter of getting a hold of that too, right? Because the show doesn't stop, just because you're done playing football, right? There is life after football. You do have to worry about that type of stuff too. But a lot of us, in the college world, especially college football, we're getting a crash course right now on what it is to deal with things outside of football, especially when it comes to money, right? So just be mindful of and accountable to the things that are outside of football as well, outside of the field, outside of the court, and all that. So this has been another episode of the REUP Podcast. It's your boy Coach Jack. Remember, champions never let nothing phase them. When in doubt, rise to the occasion. REUP.